So we're so thrilled to bring this next guest back to the Rail Talk studio. Friend of the show, bestie of the show, I would venture to say. He's the bloodstock manager for Arion Pedigrees, my guy, Andrew Stewart. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be back. Wonderful.
It's so great to have you. And we were doing some back and forth chat busting about sports that I think will fit into this interview somehow. But you're mainly here to talk about horses and the Breeders' Cup in particular. We'll get into the Melbourne Cup too in a little bit. First of all, go check out the Arion website right now if you haven't already. It's a great resource for pedigrees. The stallion roster is awesome. A ton of information for all these stallions for free. You don't have to actually pay to go check out some of the awesome info that Arion has. So you hear me plug it every week on the show, but especially this time of year, horses switching to turf and big sales going on. There's a lot of great info on Arion to help you with your handicap and your sales selection. All right, let's talk about the Euros on Friday. There's a couple of pretty short favorites in the Breeders' Cup Friday, Future Stars Friday. In the juvenile fillies turf, you've got Precise, who drew all the way outside for Aidan O'Brien at 13 hole, but is 6-5. I mean, she's a multiple Group 1 winner. It seems reasonable. And then in the juvie turf, you got another one in Gestad, who was drawn all the way outside, 14 hole for Aidan O'Brien. Still 9-5 on the morning line. Andrew, which one of these, and you don't just have to just limit it to those two, but which one of these like short priced horses from Europe on Friday do you feel comfortable leaning into or betting against?
Well, I actually think Aidan O'Brien will probably win all three of the juvenile turf races. Precise note, she's a exceptional filly. She won the Fillies Mile at her last start. The Moygley Stud Stakes at the Curragh the start before. She's won 4 from 5, and yeah, she's probably their best filly. In the turf sprint, True Love's probably their second best filly, and she won the Cheveley Park at Newmarket at her last start. So she's done nothing wrong as well. And you mentioned Gestad. He's been touched off in his last 3 starts, all at Group 1 level, drawn wide. And I think there's 3 locals in there that actually, might give him a run for his money. Argos won the group, the Grade 1 at Woodbine at his last start. Hey Nay Nay's unbeaten in 3. So, you can't cross him out. And Outfield is one that I think is interesting. He won an allowance at Keeneland at his last start, but he'd run 4th in a Group 1 at Deauville the start before in a very, very good field. So I think the juvenile turf is more open than the other two. The other two, I think the short price favourites are probably going to salute.
Yep. And Andrew, just a general question, just for our audience sake. The turf course at Del Mar is a fast-packed, usually speed-favoring turf course. Are there certain racetracks, not even race horses, but are there certain tracks that kind of mimic that style, or is it, hey, whenever it rains, guys, it's buyer beware? But this horse, if it did get a fast strip over in Europe or points unknown, it should really enjoy being on the Del Mar turf.
Yeah, I think all the overseas horses, generally, they're used to running on firm tracks. The turf tracks in Europe, of course, are a lot different to your guys' tracks. Most of them are straight. A lot of these horses won't have run around a turn, so that could be something that might trip them up. But generally, I don't think the conditions will upset them too much.
Yeah, I mean, the turf is always a fascinating race. I love when you get these horses from the Arc who come over on like relatively short rest and run. And you got the favorite in this race, Mini Hawk, the 3-year-old filly by Frankel, was just a beaten favorite in the Arc by a head. Rebels Romance, I think, we talked about him in an epic performance a couple weeks ago. Like, he is just the coolest horse running, I think. Is there anybody that you think can pop up in the turf? Because just from a first glance, it looks like those two are kind of the class of the field.
They do. I'm really excited about this race, and being a turf aficionado, and I think it's full of quality. The 2 horses you mentioned, yeah. I mean, I love Mini Hawk. She's a Jewel Oaks winner. I think that the soft track might have just touched her off in the Arc. Rebels Romance, he's the defending champion. He won it back in 2022 as well, and he's won 20 from 29. I mean, and he's
Amazing.
probably had more
Amazing,
stamps in his passport than me. So,
Right.
he's just a great horse. There's a Resolute Racing, John Stewart's Goliath. He won a Group 1 in Germany over 1.5 miles at his last start. And last year, when John Stewart bought him, his performance at Ascot was one of the highest rating race performances of the season. So, if he shows that form, he's got to be a chance. Wimbledon Hawkeye won the Nashville Derby pretty easily at his last start. And he's probably only the 5th or 6th best 3-year-old in Europe this year. But, I think the American tracks suit him a lot better. There's an interesting runner in there, Ethical Diamond, trained by Willie Mullins, who's the champion jumps trainer in Ireland and the UK and has been for years and years. And Ethical Diamond won the Ebor at his last start at York, and that's normally a lead-in to the Melbourne Cup. But, he's decided to go to the Breeders' Cup. Ethical Diamond, 7 of his 14 starts have been over jumps. So he's a master trainer, Willie Mullins, so he can do anything. So, I wouldn't write him off.
Right. And then, Andrew, a race that I don't know if you know is near and dear to my heart, and that would be the Distaff this year.
Of course.
For whatever reason.
Of course,
yep.
Yes.
There's a couple of international runners. One is Sarawak Rim coming in from Argentina. 4 wins of 5 starts, first-time blinkers, and is going to be in the stall right next to us. And then the other is Alice Verite, who is the Japanese mare, who has only run once on the dirt and finished a 4th place in last year's Distaff. What should we expect from those 2 horses in the Distaff?
Well, Argentinian form. I mean, those Argentinian horses always seem to improve when they come north, and I think we tend to underrate South American form a little bit as well. So, I certainly wouldn't write her off. The Japanese filly, the form doesn't impress me. In fact, outside of Forever Young, the Japanese horses overall don't really. I don't think they're of the highest standard or standard that they've been in previous years. Outside of Forever Young, I don't think there's one that'll actually feature in any of the races.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just form wise, and I can only read form wise, and that's the way it looks to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, what would be cool is if, obviously we're rooting for Nitrogen in that race, but if Sarawak Rim did win, that's Nacho Correa's last ever starter.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And he's been one of the most underrated trainers in America for as long as he's been going. Yeah. Like Andrew mentioned, he excels with taking those South American imports and bringing them up to the States and winning big races. I remember Blue Prize when she won this handful of years back. Yep. So shout out to Nacho Correa. So if Nitrogen doesn't win, I hope that horse wins. Let's go to the mile real quick, and then we'll start talking a little bit about the Melbourne Cup. We've got a pretty wide open race, I would say. Yeah. Notable Speech is the favorite, lukewarm favorite. He doesn't blow me away. Charlie Appleby's horses obviously are always going to get bet. They haven't won at the insane clip in America as they once did, but man, it looks like there's a lot of horses that could contend. You got the proving 3-year-old just to his outside, and Salon, who just came and won the Prix de Moulin at 14-1. Lion Winter. Where do you lean here in the mile, Andrew?
I actually think this one could go to the locals. I've sort of been really impressed by Rhetorical. It was a really impressive run at Keeneland in the Turf Mile. Formidable Man has done nothing wrong all year. You're right about the Euros. I mean, Notable Speech won the Grade 1 at Woodbine last start, but in Europe this year, he's sort of just been around the placings. He's run 3rds and 4ths and 5ths. Salon, of course, did win the Group 1 at Longchamp, but it was a bit of a surprise. The Lion in Winter was labelled by Coolmore at the end of last year. He was going to be the 3-year-old, their best 3-year-old, and he's been really, really disappointing. He probably won his best race last start at Ascot, running 2nd in the mile, only a week ago or something, or 2 weeks ago. The Japanese horse I quite like. That is one Japanese horse I think is a bit of a show. It won a Grade 3 last time. And there's a South African bred horse in there, One Stripe, who's only had the one start in North America. She's a dual Grade 1 winner in South Africa, ran 5th in the Woodbine Mile at her first start. She could be one that will improve on that run, but I think it is really open. And as I say, I think this could be one of the turf races that definitely go to the locals.
Yeah. Well, you got One Stripe in there right now at the morning line odds of 30-1. So that would be quite an upset.
I think she could run a lot better than those odds.
Yeah. Yep. And Andrew, thoughts on halfback option?
Halfback option.
Never heard?
No.
Neither did Cincinnati Bengals in the last game.
Boom!
Oh, sorry, buddy. I had to set you up for that one. I'm sorry.
Count it. That was excellent.
The Mets are playing who this week?
Touche, my friend. Touche.
That was terrific, John.
Listen, when Joe Burrow went down, the season was over.
Yeah.
Yes,
no, we get it. We feel the same way with Neighbors and Scatterbo and Joe when at the national anthem of the first game. So
exactly.
It's all part. Let's talk a little bit about the Melbourne Cup.
Sure.
Something I know nothing about. So educate me on not only what I should expect, but who I should look for.
Yeah, the Melbourne Cup was first run in 1861. So it's been going and it's been run every year since then. It's the race that stops the nation, I guess, similar to the Derby there. It's run on the first Tuesday in November all the time, and it's run over 2 miles. It's a handicap. It's had a checkered history in terms of quality of field, but in recent years there have been quite a number of either Euro runners or imports that have come down, and I think it's improved the quality of the field. And but for whatever reason, it's the race that captures the imagination down this way. It's a great carnival at Flemington in Melbourne. They run for 4 days. Derby Day is this weekend. They've got 3 Group 1s, including the Derby, over 12.5 furlongs. There's a 6 furlong Group 1 for 3-year-olds, and there's a Fillies and Mares Mile for also a Group 1. Melbourne Cup's on the Tuesday, and the Oaks is run 2 days later, and then on the following Saturday they have 3 Group 1 races. So it's a great carnival, and there'll be 100,000 people there on Melbourne Cup Day.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I want to go experience it someday soon. Like, just like you say, there's no other race in the world quite like it.
It's a huge event. I mean, the Everest has sort of really captured the public's imagination here recently, the course sells out, and it's a huge event. But there's nothing like the Melbourne Cup. I've been lucky enough to go to 4 or 5 Melbourne Cups, and it's just there's a lot of people there, and you don't see a lot. But just the fact that you're there and you're experiencing something like that is it's probably like going to Saratoga on steroids.
Right.
Yeah, I imagine.
That's great.
And I know several trainers who have had horses go to Saratoga on steroids. But anyway, they're not training anymore. I don't think, at least. But so it's just in terms of the race itself. First of all, how many horses? Is it 20?
24.
20-ish?
24. Yep.
And then who are like some of the main contenders in this year's renewal?
Well, of course, there's the first time ever US trained Parchment Party, trained by Bill Mott, owned by the Bernard family's Pin Oak Stud, and Parchment Party won the Belmont Gold Cup.
Off the turf.
Off the turf. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
But has since won on the turf at Saratoga, won the Birdstone. Both of them, I think, 1 mile and 3/4. So, the horse is going to have to get used to having 23 other horses around it. The way the races run will be completely the opposite. The last mile is always the fastest mile the last half of races are always the fastest part of races here and down this way, where it's the opposite up there, I guess. Last year's winner was 100-1, so anything can win. So,
Yeah.
outside of Parchment Party, the horse that won the normal lead up the Caulfield Cup over 1.5 miles 2 weeks ago, a horse called Half Hours is probably going to run the favourite. There's a horse from the UK, El Rifa, who will be one of the favoured horses. But it's a fairly open field. But as I say, Parchment Party is the first US trained winner. There have been 5 US bred winners, including a son of Secretariat, a son of Roberto, a son of Theatrical. The last one to win was Americane, who was by Dynaformer in 2010. So there have been US bred winners, but this will be the first US trained runner.
Wow. So that's great info. The likes of which you can find on the Arion Pedigrees website, arion.co.nz. It's an invaluable resource for all your pedigree and sales research. And the bloodstock manager at Arion, Andrew Stewart, joins us again to get us schooled on the Breeders' Cup and the Melbourne Cup. Thanks, bud.
Not a problem at all.